So who here knows of a concept called the 10th man? Anyone? Just to show of hands if anyone's heard. Good. I've still got 5 minutes of material left. And half an hour to fill it. The Israeli Defense Force in 1973 were told that the Syrians were massing on the border, and the Egyptians were massing on the border, and the Jordanians were massing on the border, and all of their diplomats were told that it's just exercises, don't worry about it, it's not going to happen, and then it did. And in 1973, the Israelis nearly lost Israel. 6-day war, very serious. They fought back brilliantly and pushed them all back. The reason that they believed all of their diplomats was because of groupthink. So what they did, they all saw the evidence and they decided, oh, no, that's not going to happen. It doesn't seem reasonable. We won't do anything about it. So after that, they came up with a concept called the 10th man. And the 10th man is the idea that in a room full of, in this case, generals, one of them, at random, would be told, this is the consensus position, we all agree it, go and prove us wrong. So go out there, find the evidence to show that what the decision we've made is not the right one. Now, interestingly enough, they make it random so that it's not one person who's always the naysayer. And secondly, the naysayer doesn't need to believe it. They just need to go and find the evidence to support it. And what would happen is, and they've done it ever since, and lots of organizations do it, and if you don't, I'd recommend you do, is you build a culture where you can have someone who can be the naysayer and say, we shouldn't do this because of that, and allow them to go off and find the evidence. And maybe they're wrong, and often, most of the time, they probably are. But it makes you think again. And the reason I say that this is to do with diversity is because if you're from a certain culture, you think a certain way. So I'll give you a good example. There was a little bit of work done at Stanford recently by two post-grad engineers who were Indian guys. And they thought about building a microscope and a device for separating out blood, which would help people with malaria and a whole bunch of other blood-borne diseases. But the centrifuge they made cost a little less than an average centrifuge. So a normal centrifuge will cost you a sort of a fairly basic model will cost you $20,000. But for the developing world, of course, $20,000 is far too much. It needs electricity. It's a delicate piece of kit. Can't do it. Westerners don't think about that. $20,000, just write a bigger check, right? We'll have another fundraising round. They thought differently. The centrifuge they built, anyone like to guess how much it cost? 57 cents. It's a piece of card with string on, and you do this. It works just as well as the $20,000 one, and you can post them. Actually, you could just stick a stamp on it and post it to someone. It's literally a piece of card. They also have a microscope that will do, I think it's 20,000 times magnification, costs $1.20. The other microscopes are tens of thousands of dollars. And because they thought about the problem, because they came from rural India, and therefore they knew that there was a problem. Westerners don't think, I need a microscope for 50 cents. It doesn't work that way. So if you have people, all of whom look the same, they all think the same, they have 10th man problem, they don't have innovation. It's unfortunately human nature though, because here's the problem. Most of us think we're a reasonable chap, or chapess, or chaplet, or whatever let's just go chap, right? I'm a reasonable chap. That person looks like me. They must be a reasonable chap. We should hire that chap. And it perpetuates. What we need to do is get out of our own skin and say, as organizations and individuals, that person is completely different from me. They're probably still a reasonable human being. Let's hope they are. I'm sure most are. But they'll think differently from me, and we'll have an advantage by having them as part of the team.